This podcast is brought to you by Voice and Vision, bringing help, hope, and healing to individuals, families, and communities affected by mental illness, addictions, and disabilities in southeastern Pennsylvania.
Welcome to Untold Valor, a podcast with a unique focus on veterans, featuring stories of courage, recovery, perseverance, and strength. Listen to hear veterans share their perspectives on what it's like to battle mental health challenges, combat addictions, and overcome other adversities unique to those who have served.
Time once again for another edition of Untold Valor Veterans Recovery in Action. And we're continuing on with our great conversation with Command Sergeant Major Bart E. Womack, retired from the United States Army with over 29 years of distinction as a professional soldier. And we were chatting about his career, his amazing career, his transition into working out in Hollywood and writing a book on his situation that he went through in his story, his book Embedded Enemy. And so we're going to kind of pick back up on that conversation. And we're going to talk a little bit about the situational awareness. I had some talking points here from you, sir, on this. And so I kind of wanted to go through this and just have you share with us, how you've transitioned since the book and what you're doing now and how that affects you. So if you didn't check out the prior episode, go take a listen to it so you can kind of hear the setup for the story about what happened to him while he was in service there with the 101st Airborne. And, we briefly kind of led off with, the situation. You told us the story. And I asked you, how did it feel to learn that you had been attacked by one of your own? And how did that sit with you guys? I mean, obviously that was probably not what you were expecting.
Yeah, not at all. I remember coming out of the tent there, like I explained, that the Major One went one direction to a bunker that he hadn't gone to all night. Well, I went a different direction to tell our senior leaders, like, what we were dealing with.
Yeah.
And I didn't say it in certain terms, like exactly. And they said, "You mean it's one of our own?" I said, "Well, yeah, you can take it like that. He's wearing the same uniform as we are. You tell your soldiers, however you decide to tell them is up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to tell them or how to shape that conversation, but shape it in a manner that we can mitigate fratricide." That was probably our biggest concern, that now it's one of our own wearing the same thing moving around. How do we ascertain the difference? That there was really no way. So we got lucky. God was, even throughout the devastation, God's always watching, and he sent that major to that bunker that he hadn't seen to apprehend him and prevent, I would say, further fratricide, because it happened from the Patriots shooting down the British jet.
Yeah. I mean, amazing story, Reverend Ben. When we were talking about and we were listening to this, it's kind of hard to fathom.
Absolutely. I mean, we see things on TV, but when you have it in real life, it definitely resonates in a whole different way.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of hits you to your core a little bit. And Mr. Womack, you were talking about the fact that the whole situation obviously caught, just stunned and caught everybody off guard. The Army and the Air Force have never classified this attack. Is that accurate? They've still never called it anything?
Correct.
Wow.
I'll add to learn that it was a fellow American soldier, and that, my takeaways from that was we don't go home with people at night. So we have no idea what he was planning or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But that's true in society too. Unless it's your spouse or, your son that you're living with, et cetera, we don't go home with people at night. So that was the first takeaway. And the second one was, this person took the oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, just like the people he killed and wounded and others who survived, right? Mm-hmm. So the other takeaway was that no profession, level of education, ideology, or religion is above reproach. There is no profile. The insider threat is closer than you think.
Wow.
The Army and Air Force not calling it anything, but more importantly, not calling it a terrorist attack. Here's why they should. So I'm going to read to you quotes in Akbar's diary.
Okay.
1993. "I do not like the military. They have too much control over people's lives. I suppose I'm just anti-government." 1996. "Anyone who stands in front of me shall be considered the enemy and dealt with accordingly." 1996. "Destroying America was my plan as a child, as a juvenile, and in college. My life will not be complete unless America is destroyed. Destroying America is my greatest goal." Wow. 1998. he joins the military. So this is what I mean by not going home with him at night.
Yeah.
This was already planned.
Yeah.
Long before joining the military.
Yeah. And
February 2000.
somehow cleared the vetting process, obviously.
Yeah, because this is in his diary.
Yeah.
You can show it in front of people and show them whatever you want to show them. You don't tell them everything unless you want them to know everything.
Right.
February 2003. I'm not going to do anything as long as I stay here. That was Fort Campbell, Kentucky. But as soon as I am in Iraq, I'm going to try to kill as many of them as possible. Then we deploy over there in March of 2003. So if that's not an enemy of our country, of which Purple Hearts are awarded, and if that's not a terrorist, then I'm not sure what it is.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, on the cover of your book, your subtitle says, "We have met the enemy, and it is us." And it's pretty self-explanatory there.
And that extends beyond that story.
Yeah.
You know, that is America on its bad days that we see far too often. That is the mass shooter in a school. That is the attacker in a workplace. It's us. No one's crossing and coming over and doing whatever. They ain't flying over here and doing whatever. Those things are much, much rarer than what we see on a consistent basis.
Yeah, it's hard to process, really, right? And you obviously experienced a true insider threat. We believe that threats will come from other organizations. To your point, so what's some thoughts that you're having in how to better prepare ourselves and how to try to protect ourselves or even just eliminate some of this stuff by doing what? Like, what's some thoughts on that?
Yeah, so in writing the book, I wanted people to have all the information about the story, number one.
Sure.
But while I was writing it, these attacks were happening. Some were happening and some were being mitigated. But I followed them all. I followed them all because I wanted to have a hook to the book, and a hook to the story, and all these things related to me. They were the same thing. They were the same insider threat, just they didn't wear a uniform, they didn't serve in the military, but it was the same thing. So I put proactive situational awareness strategies in the book that everybody could use to mitigate mass shooting and insider threat attacks. So the first one is trust no one. When I say trust no one, you think a little bit and you think, well, I do trust some people and I will continue to trust some people.
Yeah, it's hard to go through life without doing some, yeah.
It is, yeah. But when I say trust no one, it begs a question to oneself to think about how they trust.
Oh, okay.
I don't care how you do it, but one thing I don't want people to do is this whole, well, I trust them until they give me a reason not to. I don't think that
could
works.
Be too late then, yeah.
I think it could be too late. So let's not do that one. Let's find some process to vet or whatever it is, figure out how you're going to earn their trust and vice versa. But this whole until they give me a reason not to is not a good strategy. I trust it. I trust it based on the person wearing the same uniform, the person having the same armed forces organization on their chest, them having taken the same oath, and that backfired.
It makes me reflect on something on how trust and through life experiences. I know I'm not the only one to know this, but often we find out when it deals with trust that sometimes we're friends to people that are not friends to us.
Right.
And that's when you start learning about trust.
You can't wait for them to do this terrible thing that's going to destroy us to realize the mistrust. And I call that, as you mentioned, them being close to you, I call that the proximity illusion. We are so close to them that we can't see the difference.
Right, yeah, true.
The mother of the child who ended up committing the mass shooting attack, they are so close that they missed everything that the child put out there before the attack.
Yeah, we often hear they were so quiet. They were so,
right.
They were good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which brings me to my next one of observe and report. Here's one, a student, 42-year-old, Port Huron, Michigan. He posted on an Instagram account of Julian Edelman, Super Bowl champion of New England Patriots. Mm-hmm. He had posted on there that said, watch the news, I'm going to shoot up my school. He posted that to his Instagram. Now, Julian didn't see it, but someone alerted Julian to it. And once he learned of it, he called his assistant in Boston. The assistant called the police department in Boston, who called the police in Port Huron, and then they were able to mitigate the attack.
Yeah, there you go.
But did that by observing, someone was observing, and then it got reported. Next one is know your neighbor. As we were talking about before, something will go down, and then we realize that the next door neighbor was involved in whatever, and we hear, oh, he was such a nice guy. He was either such a nice guy or always thought something was wrong. It's one or the other, but no one did anything about it. So one of the strategies is to know your neighbor. And that means not necessarily the neighbor next door, but your coworker, your fellow student. Get to know people. You get to know them, they start telling you stuff, and they may tell you something that you'll be able to mitigate. Which brings me to my next one: listen, don't just hear. We go back to another student. This is an exchange student, so that means some family had taken this person in from another country, and he threatened to shoot up a school. He had 1,600 rounds of ammunition and a weapon that he had put together by ordering part by part by part by part, and the guardian never knew anything about it. But a fellow student, he had told a fellow student that not to come to school on May 1st of that year in 2018 because he was going to shoot up the school. And then that fellow student reported. No, he was listening, not just hearing.
Thankfully for that, yeah.
And then we have gut check. Kind of alluded to that in terms of the neighbor. Like I said, it usually turns out to be one or another. My gut, something was wrong. And it's our strongest sense. And sometimes we ignore it. But later on, after something happened, then we hear, I always thought, or I saw, I thought, it felt. Well, that's your gut talking to you.
It's, it begs the question, and it's obviously not, part of what we talk about here on the program, and maybe from a military aspect, but maybe it's worth a bigger conversation as a society and nationally. And of course, I could open up a can of worms here that we could talk about for days or weeks or whatever. But is it a mental health issue that we're experiencing? Is it a faith crisis more as a society that we're experiencing? Is it, what is causing, more of these kinds of things, right? Social media, right? Just the ability to constantly be influenced by stuff. It's hard to decide. It's hard to understand where to go, right? And how to combat some of this stuff within your own self.
First of all, the answer to the question is all of the above.
Yeah, true.
Like what parts can be separated, if you will. It is all of the above. And I think kind of equally all of the above. Society plays a huge role. Mm-hmm. Minds are impressionable. We ask of our young people, we ask of them young as they get younger and younger, what they're going to do in life. We ask of them to believe in something. We ask of them to align with something. We're talking to them when they're 13 about voting. But that's part of aligning with something, right? You're going to pick one of the three parties.
Yeah. And I mean, that was never a conversation when I was growing up in the 80s. I mean, I was 13 years old. All I cared about was riding my bike and hanging out with my friends.
Right. And I just use that one as an example, but that's a minor one. That's not a big one.
It's still something that's wild, though, right? It's indicative of their other problems.
It's having you shape your belief at a very young age, of which they'll do. There's a story on the news last night where a student was trying to overthrow the government. 17, killed his parents, took the weapon, took $14,000 out of the account. They had been dead for a week over a week when they found him. And his plan was to overthrow the government by starting with killing the president. Like, where'd that go off the rails in terms of a belief? Like, you're 16, 17 years old, and you already have formed a belief not to like the government. Like, your ideology is being formed so strongly that you become radicalized about it and then extreme about it. When it gets to extreme, just wait, because the boom is coming.
And it's so easy to do that now, too. Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
I just believe that one of the main ingredients to this is lack of spirituality. There's no spiritual connection in these new generations. Mm-hmm. That's why you have young people killing young people, and just it's lack of spiritually bankrupt.
Yeah, certainly a piece of it. Yeah, definitely. Obviously this could be an open-ended debate on how to go through that, but bringing it back, to our conversation and story here. So situational awareness, something obviously that you're focused a lot on now, and advising others on that situation and how to be better prepared. Yeah.
Yes.
Any other thoughts and advice you'd give?
Yeah, I would say some takeaways is really those strategies. Not trying to sell the book, but I put them in the book for a reason.
Sure.
I need people to read those and figure out how they're going to employ them in their own life. Everything is right there in front of them. If you are being situational aware, you can use this in any environment. I told the story of young people exercising these strategies because I don't want them to think that, well, Bart put it in there. He served in the military all this time. So, of course, he knows.
Right.
No, yeah, I just know to put them in the book. But I'm telling you that people of any age can leverage them. So it can be learned. I would say for our organizations, the workplace, academic institutions, and even places of worship, that there needs to be training. We're probably doing a great job in academic institutions, first and foremost, for drills when the bullets are flying. They're going to run, hide, and fight. So they have that.
Right.
And they're spending money on that. What I'm talking about is what to do before the bullets are flying. This is proactive. That person is showing you something well ahead of the attack if you are paying attention to it. And it's happening at every level from elementary on up. So that training needs to happen. That proactive training needs to happen.
That is for sure.
I need them to embrace it as opposed to being afraid of it. I think they believe that, that proximity illusion, that it's not going to happen here. We have everything in place, so we're not even going to train on it or talk about it.
Yeah, I think that goes back to that societal conversation, situational awareness, but also being proactive. We wait and then react to something and go, oh, no, this was terrible, instead of being more proactive to eliminate it before it ever happens. So, agreed.
I think that on the civilian side of things, the wake-up call was 9/11. But for people who have been in a military and maybe some trauma, we live in a society today where you must keep your mind and your soul and your head on a swivel, because you have to be aware of what's going on around you. That's the society we live in today.
That's it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Ben, is big a deal as it was to so many of us, we're 20 plus years removed from that, right? And so many people, young people, they don't even have any recollection, right? So unfortunately, we don't need another big event to galvanize us, right? Back to Bart's point, we need to be more proactive in teaching strategies and working through things. And it's an uphill battle. It's definitely an uphill battle. I know you were not interested in pushing the book, sir, but if folks do want to check that out, where can they get that?
Website, bartwomack.com. You can get it there. That link from there takes you straight to Amazon, or you can go straight to Amazon.
Gotcha. And the book is Embedded Enemy, and you can go to bartwomack.com or just go to Amazon, as he mentioned, and type in Embedded Enemy in the search box. We're going to wrap it up. We could probably keep going for multiple episodes. Thank you so much for being here with us, sharing your stories, sharing your, just the experiences that you've had. I'll bring it back to the same question I did on every episode: is any final thoughts, any words of wisdom or things you'd like to share with our listening base, wherever you'd like to take it, sir?
Yeah, I think we put a dot on the story and next steps and strategies. I would follow up in terms of transition that, when you're getting out, or even if you're right in the middle of it, or you've been out and had a job, now you're looking for another one, and still kind of an extended transition, that reach out to the people who are in it as well and have been a bit successful at it. There's some that have been better than others. Establish your tribe again. You have to get out there and find it. They're not going to find you. They don't know who you are or where you are unless they were your friends before. So reach out. You can do that on LinkedIn. If there's a place you want to work at, reach out to people at that particular organization, find out who those veterans are, and reach out to them. And at the same time, like I said, establish your tribe and continue to be in touch with your fellow brothers and sisters that serve and pull them up.
Yeah, Ben, that's exactly what you guys do at Compure Core and Voice and Vision, right? That's exactly the point.
Exactly. That's the mission.
Find somebody who's been there, walk the walk, talk the talk. It makes it a lot easier, especially if you are struggling. As always, if you are and you do need some help, please reach out to folks, as Bart just mentioned, some things to think about, as well as just check the links in the show notes. We've got links back to get some help from the team as well. And just cannot thank you enough, Command Sergeant Major Bart E. Womack. Thank you so much. Amazing story. I'm sure we'd love to have you back again another time and talk, if you'd be willing to share some time with us.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on whatever podcasting app you enjoy. Reverend Ben, sorry about that. It cut you off a little bit. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Thank you so much for the referral, Mark. Sergeant Major, thank you for your input and for your sharing your story. And I do hope to have you on again. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time here on Untold Valor. Thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting app and share the podcast with others who might benefit from the message. Thank you so much. Have a great day. You've been listening to Untold Valor by Voice and Vision. We hope you found the information and resources discussed today helpful. As always, thank you for listening and for your support. Remember to stay connected with us through our various social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget to visit the website, voiceandvisioninc.org. That's voiceandvisioninc.org, where you can sign up for our blog and find free resources and information on upcoming events, webinars, workshops, and get support. You can also access our free help and hope guide for individuals and families struggling with substance use and addiction. If someone you know is struggling, please reach out for help because you and your life matter. Remember, the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is available to you at any time by dialing 988. We are all ambassadors of hope and recovery, and if you want to share your story, please contact us. Compeer Corps is also looking for veteran mentor volunteers and veteran participants. To find out more information about Compeer Corps, please call 610-541-0790. That's 610-541-0790. You can find all the links and contact information for the resources mentioned on today's episode by checking the description and the show notes section of your app. Thank you again for tuning in and for your support. Until next time, this has been Untold Valor.